Today's topic is the Contract Labour Regulation and Abolition Act. We have been discussing so far that the labour law was made in order to safeguard the interest of the labourers and to provide them the congenial environment to work and a healthy environment so that they can work and they are not exploited by their employers. So the labours were of different category, but one of the category of the labour was the contract labour. Contract labour means the labour that are working on the daily wages, like they are hired by a contractor, they are hired by a one person, that is known as contractor, on certain conditions of employment regarding the payment of wages, regarding the condition of work, hours of work, shift and the various amenities as provided to him by the management. Contractor works for the principal employer. So before going into the detail of the act, it becomes vital for us to understand what is the chain. There is a principal employer who is the owner of any establishment. Apart from that, he hires a contractor who is a licensed contractor, and he has a license to hire n number of workers under him, and these workers are known as contract labour. This act defines the working conditions and the amenities and what are the do's and don'ts for contract labour, what are the mandates for the principal employer, what are the rights and duties of an employer, how the license is granted, how the license is suspended or revoked, how he is eligible to hire a contract labour, and how contract labour is ought to take care of the contract labour regarding the health, safety and welfare issues and regarding the payments. So this act covers the entire detail about the hiring and the maintenance of the contract labour under the Act, Contract Labour Regulation and Abolition Act 1970. So the content that this Act would cover, and it is in your syllabus, is we will discuss about the objective of the Act, why this Act was constituted. Apart from that, we will also discuss what are the salient features of the Act, what is the nature, characteristics of the Act, some important definitions, just like we discussed in the Standing Order Act. We will also discuss the process regarding the registration of the establishment. Establishment here means the industry, the company or any manufacturing unit or place of work where any operations are being carried out. We will also discuss about the welfare provisions, granted to the workers. We will also discuss about the payment of wages, what are the clauses in the Act regarding the payment of wages, and we will also discuss the rights and duties of the employer. Employer, here we mean principal employer, the person who hires the contractor. And last but not the least, a very new concept we introduced here in the Contract Labour Act is the concept of sham contract. As far as syllabus is concerned, only these content will be covered in this Act. Moving further, just let me have a glimpse of the Act, a summary of the Act for you all before going into the details section wise. This Act is called as Contract Labour Regulation and Abolition Act 1970. Dates are very important for you all to remember because there are various acts which have a common dates, common enactment dates, but you have to learn these dates very carefully. So the purpose of this act was to regulate the employment of the contract labour and the abolition of certain contract labour in certain cases, in certain abolition. For example, where the work was of intermittent nature. Intermittent nature or casual nature. Now, what do you understand by intermittent and casual nature? The appropriate government is going to decide that which process will be considered as the work of contractual nature, casual nature, or the intermittent nature. This is applicable. This act is applicable to all the establishment having 20 or more workmen. Means any establishment having 20 or more workmen should have the abolition, should have this Contract Labour Act being followed over there. Establishment means here any office, any department, any manufacturing unit, any processes, any operation where any kind of a work is applicable, but this would not apply to the establishment where the work of intermittent and the casual nature is being followed. There is a manager or occupier. He is known as the head of the department. He is known as the principal employer. He has a duty to maintain the register in accordance. It is the duty of the principal employer to maintain the register of all the contractors and the number of labor he has hired under him on the conditions that he has given them for the job. All the provisions regarding the safety, welfare and health, amenities is to be mentioned in this register maintained by the principal employer. So there is one more provision, like what is the payment of wages, when the payment of the wages has to be made, which is the date. There is a responsibility of principal employer, there is a representative of principal employer. That one representative should be there whenever the wages are being distributed to the contract labor. So the principal, if contractor fails to provide the wages, it becomes the duty of the principal employer to give the wages to the contract labor. Later on, this person can, that is the principal employer, can recover the wages from the contractor, because ultimately liability goes to the contractor for the payment of the wages. He also has a responsibility, principal employer, to maintain the creches, because creches is one of the welfare provision given in the Factories Act also. We come to it when we are dwelling into the Factories Act 1948. So all these things, just a summary of the Act and how the Act will take care of the contract labor. With this, we'll move to the chapter 1 of the Contract Labor Abolition Act 1970. This Act primarily extends to whole of India. That means this Act is applicable to all over India where any establishment is having 20 or more workmen, and it shall come into force by whenever an appropriate government by notification in an official gazette maintains the date or declares the date, so on. Similarly, as we just mentioned, it applies to every establishment having 20 or more. 20 or more is to be remembered and is to be quoted everywhere whenever it is required to every contractor or the workers are employed on a preceding 12 months of a calendar year. It will not apply to the establishment where the work is of intermittent and the casual nature. The appropriate government would only decide that what kind of a work is an intermittent or casual in nature. So this is the chapter 1 that deals with the extent, title and commencement of the Act. Moving on to chapter 3. Chapter 3 of the Act deals with the registration of the establishment, revocation of the registration, effect of non-registration and prohibition of employment. That comes from section 6 to 10 under the Act. Section 6. Section 6 specifically deals with the appointment of the registering officers. Registering officers. Who are the registering officers? The registering officers are the person who are responsible for registering an establishment into their register after being satisfied that all the conditions are being satisfied. So, appropriate government may by notification in an official gazette will appoint any person as a registration officer as it thinks fit for the purpose and is eligible to take the task of the registration officer, and would also define the limits and the powers under his operation. Section 6. Section 6 deals with the registration. Section 7. Section 7 deals with the registration of the establishment. So first comes the appointment of the registration. As you can see in the order, Section 6 calls for the registration of the registered officer. Second point, that is Section 7, deals with the registration of the establishments. Registration of the establishment. Now, principal employer, it's the principal employer who comes into force. He, in a prescribed format, by mentioning all the required details regarding the nature of the operation, the process, the number of contractor he wished to hire, what kind of a nature of the establishment he is coming up with, what are the do's and don'ts in a company. So he makes an application to the registering officer in the prescribed manner for the registering of the establishment. If registration officer found that application is complete, application that was forwarded by the principal employer is complete in all the respect, he shall register the establishment and also grant him the certificate of registration. So this is the process. Section 6 covers with the registering officer. You have to appoint the registering officer. This registering officer has a duty to register the establishment. So Section 7 calls for the registration of the establishment. That lies the duty of the principal employer to apply in a proper format to the registrar for getting the certificate of registration, and he only gets the certificate when he feels that all the application, all the mandates has been complied with. Moving on to Section 8. Moving on to Section 8, that is the revocation. The certificate of registration that has been granted to the establishment whenever the principal employer has put forward the application for the registration would also be revoked when the registering officer will find that if the certificate of registration is obtained by misrepresentation of the facts or by fraudulent purpose, or there was any error into it, then this revocation of the certification is called for. So what happened? But here the principal employer is given an opportunity to say something, to express himself, that why, if there is any misunderstanding or misrepresentation, only if after giving a due acknowledgement to the employer, informing the principal employer, then only the certificate is revoked. Section 9. Section 9 deals with the effect of non-registration. Though registration is compulsory, but what happens if there is no registration of the establishment? If the establishment is not registered, then principal employer would not employ the contract labor. Principal employer will not employ the contract labor because his establishment is not registered. He cannot take any task out of the contract labor, nor he can hire the contractor until and unless his establishment is properly registered. So it is mandatory for the principal employer to get his establishment registered under the provisions of the Act. Section 10 calls for the prohibition of employment of contract labor. It states that notwithstanding anything contained in the provision of the Act, the appropriate government, after consultation with the central board or the case may be or the state board, prohibit by notification in the official gazette employment of any contract labor under certain circumstances if it found that the process or the operation is not up to the mark or it does not require the contract labor to be hired. Also, whether it is the work is of perennial nature or the casual nature or the intermittent nature. Also, when the government feels or the appropriate government may understood that it is not sufficient or the work is done is of a regular nature, it is done at the regular intervals, and whether it is sufficient to employ the considerable number of the contract labor in a company. So there is a certain cases, there are certain conditions where the government intervenes in between and prohibits to appoint the contract labor in a particular establishment as per the provision of the Act. So section 6 to 10 gives the detail under chapter 3 regarding the registering, appointment of the registering officers. Like section 6 says appointment. Just a quick recap. Section 7 says the registration. Section 8 says the revocation. Section 9 says the non-effect of the registration. And section 10 describes the prohibition. So chapter 1 deals with the short title commencement of the Act. Chapter 3 deals with the registration process of the establishment and the revocation, suspension of the registration certificate. Coming to the chapter 4. Now just understand, we have discussed about the short title commencement of the Act. We have also done in chapter number 3 regarding the registration of the establishment. Before registering of the establishment, we discussed about how the registering officer is appointed and what are the duties that are conferred to him by the government. Now you have your registration officer, you have your establishment registered. Now comes in the next chapter regarding the licensing of the contractors. This is described under chapter 4 and section 11 to 15. That is licensing of the contractors. Who are the contractors? We have already started. So section 11, again coming to section wise summary. Section 11 deals with the appointment of the licensing officer. Appointment of the licensing officer. Just like we appointed the registering officer, we appoint the licensing officer. The appropriate government may by notification in an official gazette, if things fit, it appoints the licensing officer and also defines the power and the limits of its operation under the provision of the Act. So government is responsible for appointing the licensing officer गवर्नमेंट को जिसको ठीक लगता है उसको अपॉइंट करती है एज अ लाइसेंसिंग ऑफिसर, जस्ट लाइक इट अपॉइंटेड द रजिस्टरिंग ऑफिसर. Once the licensing officer is appointed under section 11 of the act, now section 12 deals with the licensing of contractor. The contractor is licensed. No contractor is eligible to execute or undertake any work through contractual labor unless a license has been granted to him under the act by the licensing officer. He is not eligible. Will be penalized if he'll take work from any contract labor without getting license from the licensing officer. The license may contain the details like hours of work, conditions of work, wages that are decided, that is hours of work, conditions of work, wages of work, and the operations of work, that is the nature, and other details as prescribed. So after writing all these details in a license for the getting of the license, he also has to submit certain fees as a security, and all these details has to be filled in a prescribed format and submitted to the licensing officer. Section 13. You have appointed the licensing officer under section 11. You are applying for the license. That is, the contractor is applying for the license. Section 13 deals with the grant of the license. Grant of license to whom? Grant of license to the contractor who has applied for the license to the licensing officer. All application is to be submitted in the prescribed manner, containing all the details, all the required details by the licensing officer with respect to the contract labor, like the wages, hours of work, nature of operation, place of operation. And if the license officer is satisfied that all the conditions are fulfilled as per the provision of the act, the license is granted to the contract labor on receipt of certain fees or certain amount or deposit as a security. For the task that he has mentioned in the getting the approval for the license. This license that is granted has a particular time frame. That means it is valid for a certain period. And it is subject to the renewal from time to time. That means the license that is granted by the licensing officer is valid for a year or so, or maybe the time prescribed, and this license has to be renewed from time to time before the expiry on the payment of fees, again a deposit with the licensing officer. But before granting the license to the contractor, the licensing officer will conduct the investigation whether all the details furnished by the contractor is correct, whether all the details that he has mentioned, the nature of operation and the wages, he will have a proper thorough check of the details that has been furnished by the contractor. And if he is found guilty, and if it is found that the license has been granted or obtained by the fraudulent purposes or by misrepresentation of the facts or not as per the provision of the act, The licensing officer has a power to revoke the license and can call for the penalty for the contractor. Only after getting heard, he has a right to revoke. So section 11 to 15. Again, going for a quick recap. Section 1 discussed about the short title commencement, that is the introductory part of the Contract Labour Act. Chapter 3 dealt with the registration of the establishment, appointing the registering officer. Chapter 4 dealt with the contract labour, the contractor getting the license, appointing the licensing officer, the methods of revocation. Further, we will move to the Chapter 5. That deals with the welfare and health of the contract labour. What are the welfare facilities given to the contract labour under the Act? Now the Act is very particular about granting the welfare facilities so that the workers are not getting exploited at the behest of the principal employer or the contract labour. So there are various provisions made under the Act for the welfare of the contract labour, and they are mentioned from section 16 to section 20. So the first is canteen. It is mandatory for the principal employer to have a canteen facility within an establishment, having a fresh food, having a healthy food, so that the contract labour can avail the facility of the food from the canteen. Similarly, the provision for the restroom should be there, that calls that where the worker can sit, can halt for a moment and again get back to the work. And they have an alternative accommodation also. So section 16 is canteen and section 17 is restroom. Then we have other facilities in section 18. Other facilities calls for a sufficient supply of wholesome drinking water, the toilet, the urinals, a neat and clean spittoons, so that the contract labour can have a hygienic working environment. Apart from that, section 19 calls for the first aid facility. First aid facility. During the course of work, he met with an accident, then there should be a first aid facility given to the contract labour, so that he may get a proper first aid treatment. And last, section 20. Liability of principal employer. If contractor is not fulfilling his liability and taking care of the contract labour, then it becomes the liability of the principal employer to provide all the facilities to the contract labour on behalf of the contractor, and later on this principal employer can recover the amount that has been spent on the contract labour. So section 16, 17, 18, 19 and 20 calls for the welfare, health and of the welfare of the contract labour. Again, going for a quick recap. Section 16 calls for the canteen. Section 17 calls for the restrooms. Section 18 calls for the other facilities like drinking water, urinals. Section 19 calls for the first aid facility, and section 20 about the liability of the principal employer. So chapter 4 and chapter 5 and chapter 3. Chapter 1 dealt with the short title commencement. Chapter 3 dealt with the registration of the establishment and hiring of the registering officer. Chapter 4 dealt with the licensing of the contractor. And Chapter 5 dealt with the welfare health of the contract labor. Contract labor.